Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about something slightly different. Talking a bit more about kind of macroeconomics and how we are, I just wanted to talk a little bit about how I wouldn't rely or be too heavy in DeFi, or why I'm not too heavily. I've got a decent amount of my portfolio, quite a large amount invested in DeFi, but what I'm trying to say is don't count on DeFi completely, because there is some questions about its decentralization, and also we're living in inflationary time. Things like DeFi and altcoins, I don't think they're going to stand up to a period of like heavy inflation. I mean, currently we're in inflation and it could increase more, but I think these coins are just going to be offloaded straight away. I don't think they've got so much intrinsic value. A lot of it is just built on speculation, which is great because then we can use this to earn more Bitcoin or more dollars, or and other assets which have a more solid intrinsic value, and that's why we're into it. Okay, but when the crap hits the fan, then these things is not gonna bail you out, and you could end up just in an illiquid market. And I'm talking about stuff all the way to Ethereum. So I'm sure, or I hope that a lot of you are aware about the M2 money stock chart, which measures the amount of printed money by the Federal Reserve. The chart released by the Federal Reserve, the M2 money stock, was actually discontinued, which I think is kind of crazy. But I'm sure everyone is aware that a massive amount of money got printed within the last, which is not great if you're a dollar holder. If you're a saver, it's a disaster, And if you look at asset price inflation and combine this with increasing the money supply, you are looking at, an inflation of like 1 to 1.5 to maybe 2% every month. So of course that's why we are doing DeFi and things like this, to try and earn yield, to try and escape this inflation. I think you need to be earning at least like 10 or 20% yield every year, otherwise you are just going to be paying this inflation tax. So I just had this quote that actually really rang a lot of truth with me while I've been learning about this kind of thing. It's a quote by a man named Frederick Douglass, who was a son of a slave in America, and he was taught to read and write by his slave owner's wife, and then once he got a basic understanding, his slave owner discovered that his wife is teaching him, and he demanded that his wife stopped giving him lessons in English. So basically his slave owner was afraid of the power of education, and he knew that the potential education could cause a lot of problems in the future for him. So the quote is, knowledge makes a man unfit to be a slave. And I think that's really important. If you refuse to educate yourself or take the time to learn about things in the world, then it's going to end up where you become a slave, basically. So for the past 12 years, I've been trying to learn more about economics, and there's been several documentaries which really helped my learning. And I think YouTube is a great resource for learning these kind of things. Much better than kind of Netflix or any other source. I think there is a wealth of information on there. So I've made a playlist with some films that I think you guys should watch and try and get a better understanding if you've not seen some of these films already. And the first one is called Money is Debt, the film which I first saw. And this kind of explains the history of money, going right back to pre-gold, and then coinage, and then fractional reserve, and kind of explains a lot of the aspects of what money is. And it's a kind of It's a very basic animation, and it's quite drawn out, and the first time I watched it completely like confused me, and I didn't really understand probably like 70% of it. But I mean, like many of these documentaries, what I'm going to talk about, don't try and understand 100% of it. If you even understand like 10 or 20%, that's okay, because later on things will start to become clearer. Later on, after watching the film, then these kind of thoughts solidify in your mind, and then you start to develop an understanding of it. So this is another film which kind of shaped a lot of my worldview as well. So this film, HyperNormalization, is kind of more about society, and it had a specific area about kind of algorithmic bubbles and how you can end up trapped in your own kind of bubble. Depends whatever your belief is, you'll end up trapped in this bubble. And it's something, it's not really to do with financial or economics, but it is a lot to do with politics. But there is some kind of touching on economic aspects, how banks and corporations kind of have a bigger control on political institutions. But there's also some newer films by Adam Curtis as well. He has a new series, Can't Get You Out of My Head, on BBC, which I think may be available on YouTube. I'll try and link that as well. But this film, his latest film, is also very good when talking about China as well, and talking about kind of Asia in general as well. And his films are kind of like one very long investigation. If you look at all his films for the past few decades up until now, a lot of it even contains some of the same footage, so it's kind of like a documentary which keeps updating and evolving. So yeah, I definitely recommend watching this for a kind of societal aspect on things, and how these changes in the economy and how the institutions and the banks have kind of affected society and politics at large. Okay, the other film I'd like to recommend is based on a book by Richard Werner called Princes of the Yen. It is based on Japan, which I think is a key country to understand if you understand the wider economic system in the world. Is a country which is 250 or nearabouts debt to GDP, which is way more than any other country. They're the first country to start quantitative easing, and they had a very radical shift in their banking system, which is outlined in this film. So this film kind of identifies how banking investment can shape the kind of world and society, the society we're living in. So the great thing about this film, and another film which I'm going to recommend from Independent POV, is the subtitles they have available in a very wide range of different languages. So the last film I'd like to recommend is another film by the same channel, which is called Britain's Second Empire, which I just recently watched. And it's about how after the British Empire and physically I had to withdraw, there was still these relationships, and how it's talking about how tax havens were established and maintained, and these relationships with different countries outside of the UK, where the UK and specifically London had influence, but also could claim to not have control of. So this film is talking a lot about how the tax havens incentivize criminals or dictators to move their money offshore, and also high net value individuals living in Western countries to obviously put there to avoid taxes. And this creates a kind of tiered kind of apartheid system, where you've got one set of people who pay taxes, and then the general public, or 99%, if you will, don't get access to these kind of perks, don't get access to cheap loans, don't get access to tax-free bank accounts. And so I think this is like key to understanding Bitcoin, because Bitcoin also gives people protection, and it also gives people the chance to not get their currency debased, because these tax havens also are able to hold assets as well. So generally all these films are kind of, I think they're essential to understand these kind of things, and it's essential that if you're into cryptocurrencies, especially like Bitcoin, it's essential to understand all these kind of elements to know the real true value of Bitcoin, and to understand that, like, in an inflationary environment, you know, Bitcoin is really going to be your only answer to DeFi and stuff. I mean, we can do it in another video, but I think DeFi has got a lot of allegations that it's centrally hosted on Amazon Web Servers, just on private servers, and the decentralization aspect, especially with the new immigration bill, it's definitely been put under question, and I would like to go through that in detail in a future video. So this is not an exhaustive list, and I will be adding as I watch other documentaries, or perhaps even shorter clips, just to give you guys an opportunity to watch some of these films if you've not heard of them, because I think some of these channels, some of these documentaries, like 4.5 million views, I think this video, this documentary has, but the channels is not actually that big. So a lot of people I've spoken to haven't seen these kind of films, and yeah, I just highly recommend watching them, basically. So there are some other ones that I could probably add. I could probably add some from Michael Saylor as well. He has a series on history of money as well, one that I haven't watched yet, so I don't really want to add it until I haven't watched it. But of course, like Michael Saylor and Richard Werner, there's so many interviews on YouTube that you can watch, and it's very valuable. So yeah, I will be adding more to this, and I hope you enjoyed this video. It's a little bit off topic, but it's something I've been wanting to cover. And I'm actually going to do a follow-up video to this, talking about, because I think we've got a little bit long in this video, so I want to talk about what could be trigger a possible contagion, and something which I've kind of noticed. So I'm going to do a follow-up to this video, because I spotted what I think could be the next possible big contagion happening over here in Asia. Maybe you've even heard of it already, but I think I want to go over it in detail, so otherwise this video is going to end up very long, so I'm going to leave it till the next video. Alright, thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.